ladies and gentlemen, before we induct Ray into the Hall of Fame tonight, we have some people who would like to say a few words, people who know Ray pretty well. So please welcome, to kick things off, Jim West.
Thanks very much, Marty. I had the pleasure of knowing Ray Odom for several years, and the pleasure of being in country music radio all over the country, not just Phoenix, but did it for almost 40 years, and had the opportunity to work for people like Buck Owens at KNIX for about 9 years back in the 80s, and at Camel Country here as well. But there's also a gentleman that I've known for over 35 years. Back in the 80s, when I was on KNIX, we used to do a lot of shows around the valley, and I would MC some of the shows for this gentleman up in Flagstaff. Oh, golly, several venues here in the valley, and he was always a good friend. Known this gentleman for over 35 years. Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman is in the Arizona Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame, and we want to welcome Mr. Johnny Western. Johnny, come on up, please. Johnny would like to say a few words about his good friend Ray Odom.
Thank you, Jim. Ray Odom is a giant in the entertainment industry, and I have known him for a long, long time. Let me tell you a little bit about me and Ray Odom. 1960, I lived in North Hollywood, California, and I had a very good year in 1960. I had my third year of my television theme, The Battle of the Paladin, running on the #2 television show in the world for 3 consecutive years, Have Done Will Travel. I was in my third year of recording for Columbia Records, and was in my third year of touring the United States and Canada with Johnny Cash, a couple of 100 days a year. I had a very good year. Except traveling from coast to coast and around the country, I had never played Phoenix, Arizona. I just had this thing, I wanted to play Phoenix sometime somewhere. A couple, 2-3 weeks later, after I was thinking about this, my booking agent gave me a call and said, guess what? I've got you booked with Ray Odom at KHAT Radio in Phoenix, and you're going to play Riverside Ballroom. They got a 10-piece Western swing band, Wild Fight is this big Western swing band. They're going to back you up, but you're going to be the guest star that night. A couple of weeks later, he said, oh, by the way, when you get over there, stop by KHAT Radio, talk to Ray Odom, and do an interview on the air, and then get over there for rehearsal, and you'll have yourself a great time. That worked out just fine. Ray was there, we had a great time. I did an interview on KHAT Radio, went over. By that time, the band was all ready to go. There was no rehearsal, but they were so great. They did a great job of backing me up, and I had a great crowd and a great night. And as an added plus, here visiting his mother in Glendale that particular weekend, the great Marty Robbins was in from Nashville. He'd been a friend of mine for years and years and years. We had toured together a lot for Columbia Records, and Marty showed up totally unannounced backstage at Riverside. So he was there with Ray Odom and myself that very first time that I played in Phoenix. Of course, being from the Valley, he knew everybody knew him. He had El Paso out, the #1 song in the world. It was a great time, and I had a great crowd and a great night. In that big Western swing band, the bass player was Buddy Long, and the steel guitar player was Buddy Wheeler. 12 years later, both of those guys came to work for me in my road band. It only took 12 years to get them on the road, but it was a great time. And that started my association with Ray Odom. The next year, in 1961, Ray Odom booked me at Riverside with Johnny Cash. And all the security guys told me they had to add a dozen more security people just to handle the crowd. It was so huge. Cash was really hot on records, and of course, had this great personality, and drawing people all over the world was incredible. So it was Johnny Cash, me, and the Tennessee Two, and that Western swing band. Great night in Riverside. 1 year later, 1962, Ray promoted a really big show called The Shower of Stars. In Hollywood, I played a big show with Cash, looked like Who's Who, at the Hollywood Bowl, 20,000 people. A couple of days later, we were here at Montgomery Stadium for an outdoor summer show in the month of June. You can imagine it was a little warm. Afternoon, huge crowd at Montgomery Stadium, which was part of the old West Side High School complex there at that time. And we had some of the people that they were talking about on that show. Because the Shower of Stars also included George Jones, Patsy Cline, Leroy Van Dyke, Don Gibson, Gordon Terry, and myself, and it looked like who's who out there. It was a great, great time. In the audience that particular day, she didn't know it, and I never knew her because we never met. Was a little lady there with her family who I was going to marry 4 years later. She saw me on that stage, but what she remembered was Johnny Cash. Luck of the draw, but she didn't get him. Okay. 1963, Ray Odom booked me at Madison Square Garden with Johnny Bond. I had taken Johnny Bond's place on the SINATRA show in 1956. He was a dear friend. He had recommended me for that job when he left Autry after 30 years. I got that particular job. So it was a great, great pleasure to work with Johnny Bond on that stage, also promoted by Ray Odom. 1963, my last year on Columbia Records, and I came over here to play a show. Where? Riverside Ballroom. And I came over with a dear friend who passed away just a few years later, the great Tommy Duncan, who sold millions of records singing San Antonio Rose with Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. And of course, he fit right in with Bob Tice's great Western Swing Band. And we had a great night. In fact, I think up until that particular time, it was the greatest night that I ever had on the stage. Because that particular night at Riverside with me and Tommy Duncan and Bob Tice's great band, I got 3 standing ovations. And I've never had that happen in my whole career. When you're in your 20s, that's a pretty heady thing. We came off the stage, we decided we'd go out and get a bite to eat. On our way to the restaurant, Tommy said, "Kid," and Tommy was 20 years older than me, so he called me Kid. Rightfully so. He said, "Kid, you had a great night at Riverside tonight." I said, "Tommy, I think it might be the greatest night of my life on the stage." He said, "Then, let it go to your heart and not to your head." And I never forgot that because it happened right there at Riverside Ballroom, 1963. Who was responsible for all that? Ray Odom. We became friends. We saw each other occasionally, but we talked on the phone. His radio station, KHAT, of course, everybody knew who Ray Odom was in all of country music. At one time, Ray was the big Western guy on the Country Music Association Board of Directors. At the time that Ray was there, Gene Autry was the president of the CMA, and they were the only two that came to the board meetings in Western clothes. I don't think I've ever seen Ray Odom my whole life without Western clothes. When I worked for Gene Autry, I never saw him without Western clothes. So it was a kind of a close association, and a lot of you folks don't know it. But when Gene Autry founded the California Angels baseball team in 1961, he actually asked Ray Odom to leave Phoenix and come over and be his play-by-play announcer, as Ben Scully has done for the Dodgers all these years. Ray turned that down to stay right here in the Valley of the Sun and do what he did. But everybody in country music, everybody in the music business knew who Ray Odom was. Today, we still know who Ray Odom was, but we know who he is because he's still very much with us, just celebrating his 90th birthday. And if anybody in the world deserved to be inducted into this wonderful Hall of Fame, it is Ray Odom, and that is just about to happen. Ray, thank you for all these great years of my life from 1960 until tonight, and we intend to have a lot more with you and Dolly. God bless, and you are truly a giant. Ray Odom. Marty back up here to continue this.
Margaret, are you coming up now or later? Later. All right. This is an easy room to work, isn't it? Just talk to them. Wow, that was amazing, Johnny. Thank you so much for that trip down memory lane. And you've got some amazing memories there, of course, does Ray. And there's nobody that I know that has more amazing Arizona music memories than the fellow who's going to go up now to present the plaque to Ray Odom tonight. Please welcome my good buddy, Johnny D, John Dixon.
Great, hi everybody. Very honored to be here to present the plaque to Mr. Ray Odom. Just a couple of things. Ray, I know you and Dolly know this, but and Ray Jr., did anybody know the name of Ray's beautiful black horse, Arabian horse, right, Ray? No? Yeah, there it is, Black Magic. That's the name. That's good you know it, because that's certainly, I was talking to my friend Mary Ann, that's one of our great memories. I came out in '53, and I didn't go to Phoenix, I went to Brada del Sol. And I remember, Ray working the street back and forth, that beautiful silver saddle, and his white hat, and I've even got some KHAT postcards of that are great memories. That's one thing. The other thing I want you to know is that people have no idea what what should I say? What problems? What parents? So many parents were upset when they found out that Ray Odom was bringing Elvis Presley to Phoenix. And I have some wonderful Arizona Republic and Gazette stories of the entertainment columnists at the time declaring the decline of Western civilization if Elvis Presley was allowed to appear in Phoenix. And there are some wonderful pictures. They put up some fence, and there are just some great pictures of these gals clutching the fence and just ecstasy, screaming at the top of their lungs. And Ray took a lot of grief, I think, from a lot of the uppity-ups here for bringing Elvis to Phoenix and Tucson. But he certainly was a man with a vision, obviously, and promoting the wonderful shows at the Riverside Ballroom as well as Madison Square Garden. And then, I mean, come on, Elvis and Frank Sinatra. You indeed are the man, Ray, and I'm very, very happy to present the plaque. Should we bring him up here and he will stand beside me? How about it for Mr. Ray Odom? Let me read this briefly. In recognition of outstanding achievement and major contribution to the entertainment culture in the state of Arizona, Ray Odom is inducted in the Arizona Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame, March 26, 2017. Congratulations, Ray.
Difficult for me to understand all of the things that have been said are absolutely true. About Gene Autry, he and I were the only two on the country music board of directors nationwide that dressed Western all the time, and he and I became good friends. So one day I told him, I said, Gene, I said, everything you touch turns to gold. I said, he had two hotels on Nob Hill in San Francisco. The Republican Party held their conventions there. And he was just such a great guy. And one day I said, Gene, I saw on television yesterday that you're a billionaire. There were only two United States billionaires at that time. My gosh, can't think of their names now, for goodness sakes. He said, oh, I don't know, I guess somewhere around there. That's a billionaire. and he certainly was that. But he was just such a great friend, and enjoyed our association on that board of directors together. This is a great, great honor. I mentioned KHEP. We put them on the air in 1956, and it's the first country music, all country music radio station in the state of Arizona. And we'd only been on the air about 3 months, I guess. And one day a good friend came over. He owned a station, Spanish-speaking station in South Phoenix, and he stopped by and visited with me, and he said, "You've got to be walking about 10 feet off the ground." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "The rating." I said, "What rating?" I didn't know that they'd taken the rating, that this audience rating for all the stations. He said, "I've got a copy of it in my car. I'll go get it." He brought it in. My eyes popped out of my head about yay far, because I'd never seen a rating like this. And the first 2 months, the first 2 weeks of their rating, there was a 4-week rating. First 2 weeks, we weren't even on the air. We only got on the last 2 weeks. And here we were, the number 2 rated station was KOY. They hadn't been beaten. They've been mentioned here tonight earlier. And they hadn't been beaten in about 7 years. They had a 14 rating. KHEP had a 28. The station that I just left, and I had a 4-hour show, I did sports for KRUX in Glendale, excuse me, and that station, we did a lot of the sports, as I said, and I had a 4-hour country music show on the station, but when they sold out to a rock and roll group, there was no country music at all. So when we put KHEP on the air and doing all this country music, with every high schooler in the state of Arizona that could get our signal, listen to KHEP. For this reason, Elvis Presley was, his first record was a 78 record. That's how old it was. That goes back that far. And Elvis had Blue Moon of Kentucky and Milk Cow Blues Boogie. If that's not country, I don't know what is. So I played it, and he called me one morning, and he knew that I had a Saturday night show, and he said, "Ray, Mr. Odom, I beg your pardon." And he said, "I know you have your show, and we're coming through there." And our good buddy mentioned this earlier, but he says, and I did pay him $10,000 to come there. But the ticket sold out, 10,000 seats at the Fairgrounds in Phoenix, 19th Avenue and Bell Road, and it sold out in an hour. That's how popular that guy was. My lovely wife, Dolly, we picked him up at the airport, and how they found out that the girls found out that he was coming in on that flight is beyond me. We wouldn't dare say that on KHAT at that time. And he saw them coming down the ramp. He was coming down the ramp, and he saw the girls. He came running around the side of the building. They only had one building there at that time. We got how many now? 5 or 6. But he leaped over a fence and jumped in the car, and he and Dolly started talking. 3 of us are in the front seat. We weren't married then. She was just 18. He was 19. And while they're talking, he was saying, "Yes, ma'am," "No, ma'am," to the girl that was a year younger than he. What a wonderful, wonderful young man he was. We brought him here 3 different times, and had him at the fairgrounds. And the first time, we had no coliseums at that time. And he performed just admirably. My wife and I were sitting in the governor's box, and some friends and relatives with us, and girls surrounding us, and they just grabbing their hair and just yanking on it. That's what it is on the stage. Some of them were pulling their hair. They were grabbing their fingers and pulling their ears. This was the reaction that this guy brought to these young ladies. And The next morning, I went out to settle up financially with the fairgrounds, and the head grounds person came in and he said, "Ray, what a show last night with Elvis. That was unbelievable." He said, "We saw a few things a little different this morning when we went out to clean up. We found over 60 pairs of girls' panties sticking to the chain fence." A very true story. I have another story, but I'm not going to tell you that one.